tradition here on Father's Day, and that is we're supposed to tell dad jokes. So apparently I have to live up to this tradition, so please don't shoot the messenger, all right? It's not my fault. So first wonderful dad joke is, how do you make an egg roll? You push it. Wah, wah, wah. Okay, maybe this one's a little bit better. If you have 3 shotguns in one hand and 10 decoys in the other hand, what do you have? Big hands. I only know 25 letters in the alphabet. I don't know why. So have you guys ever heard of Murphy's Law? How about Cole's Law? It's this wonderful stuff with cabbage and a little bit of dressing. You got to try it. Killing it. Waka, waka, waka. If you guys know that, you're old. Okay, here's the one that I'm going to get in trouble for. Ron's going to scold me for this one. Why can't you hear a pterodactyl going to the bathroom? The P is silent. Somebody over here had it. Bad pastor, bad pastor. And so I want to preface this with a quote from a very old friend of mine named Jim Pierce. And he used to say, if you ever hear me saying something that sounds wise or cool or intelligent, rest assured I stole it. And I did a lot of stealing for what I'm about to do here. Because that's what we do, guys, right? We take everything we know from other great men. And so I'm not saying that to down myself. I'm not, I can't do this. I don't know what I'm doing. Everyone feel bad for me. It's not like that. But I do want to recognize the great men whose backs I stand on to be up here today. If it's all right with you guys, I came here to celebrate fathers, right? That's the whole reason I'm here today. I want to celebrate good fathers. And I know a lot of you are like me, and the whole idea of Father's Day is a painful thought. I know that a lot of you have issues from childhood that have to do with a man who didn't do something well. And I understand that, and I want to make room for that, but I'm not going to talk about it today. If that's you today, then at the end of the service, there's going to be time for ministry, and please come up for prayer. Don't feel like I'm setting you to the side. But what I really want to do today is celebrate good fathers instead of focusing on bad ones. You guys good with that? All right. So where was I? What is a good father? Anyone? Loving. Present. Gentle. That's good, Snake. That's a good word. Rare and good. Ooh, good one, Ernie. Generous and stern. I like that. Nurturing. Present. Strong. Confident. Godly. Leading. Yeah, these are all good answers. And thank you very much. I'm going to go. You guys already know what a good dad is. Kent saw that one coming from a mile away. So what I want to talk to you about today is the things like that a good father would die for you. Just like it's his job to die for his bride, it's his job to die for his kids. A good father dies to himself every day. He gets up and does what he's got to do to take care of his family. A lot of people forget that, especially in our society today. And I'm not sure why. It's not something that I understand. But I remember getting up. when I first started school, right, I remember I was allowed to get out of bed early enough to see my dad go to work. I had breakfast with my dad. And my dad was in construction, right? And so he was up at 4:30 in the morning. So I got up at 4:30 in the morning and had eggs with dad. Amazing. And I'll never forget that day. It was amazing. But another day, an even better day, is when I was 4, before I started school. We went camping up at Lake Berryessa. Anyone ever been there? It's gorgeous. Northern California, where I'm from. It's Napa County. And it's this gorgeous lake. It's kind of flat, not much for waves, and good fish in there. And since there's good fishing, my dad brought my grandfather's little aluminum rowboat, because we were going to go fishing. And but he had another plan, because dads, they're always looking for an opportunity to teach you a lesson, right? And so we went out under the guise we were about to go fishing, and he looked at me and said, "Well, son, today you learn how to swim." And I looked up at him like, I'm terrified of water, right? And he grabbed me by the back of the shirt and tossed me in. And I'm like, Dad, what are you doing, Dad? And he starts slowly rowing away. And he's like, swim or die. What are you going to do? And the whole way, I complained, I yelled, called him names, but I made it to the shore and I learned to swim that day. And I know there's a lot of people in the room right now gasping, but that's the only time in my life anyone ever tried to teach me to swim. And there's been a couple of times where that skill came in handy, I've fallen in before and had to do something about it. The thing that I thought of later, because I spent years being mad about my dad about this, right? I talked to therapists and, can't believe he did that. That's why I drank, And it dawned on me one day that he was never so far away he couldn't have saved me. He didn't row in quickly, like I need a beer, Like, he was right there the whole time, teasing me. Well, you coming? Come on. That was my dad, and for better or for worse, he's my dad. He taught me a lot. And so now I can swim, and the reason I can swim is because my dad kept calling me deeper. My whole life, no matter what I did, it was never, wow, son, you're good enough right now. And you hear people complain about that attitude in a father. You hear it all the time. Now, you get that from your mom. That's important. You should get that somewhere, and you get that from your mom. It's something moms do so well. But what dads do so well is, I love you right now. Now let's get better than this. I'm not going to leave you the way you are. And my dad might have been too good at that. I don't know. But but I've always had this idea that I could get better than I am. Even if I felt like how I am is good enough, I've always felt like I could get better than I am. And since I could, I should. That's a good thing for a kid to learn. So today I want to tell you about a father in the Bible. One you don't hear a lot about, because he's not the focus of the story that he's in. But his name was Jairus. And I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. Just like when I was a kid or in high school, I was a big fan of Neil Peart, and there was always that guy at the party that would say, it's pronounced Piart. Like, I hear that in churches all the time too, And so, but for today, we're going to call him Jairus. And he had a daughter, and he knew that his daughter was dying. Something very specific that you need to know about him is that he was one of the leaders in Sanhedrin, which was no small thing back then. And so that when he went to Jesus, he was at the end of his rope. He had come to the point where he couldn't do it himself. He was out of answers. And I know there's a lot of fathers in the room, so I know you know exactly what I'm talking about with this. I've been there. I've been to the point where I didn't know what to do about my daughters. And I had to go to God with it. Like, what do I do? How do I not fail her in this moment? See, part of being a father is knowing that you can't do it. The mantle that we have fathers on, no one could live up to that. No one. We need God in order to do our job. And so Jairus goes to Jesus. He falls to his knees and says that my daughter's dying. Basically, what are you going to do about it? No. He says, will you put your hands on her so that she might live? Jesus went with him. That simple. He wasn't too far away. He hadn't rode so far away that he couldn't help, right? But here's the clincher, though. Like, as they're going, all the crowd presses around him because Jesus is a pretty popular guy at this point. Everyone wants to be healed. And the crowd's rushing around him, and apparently this woman reached out and touched his garment. That's the person in this story that's so famous. It's the woman that got healed. Not Jairus. No one's talking about Jairus. Which kind of reminds me of watching Super Bowls, you know? Like you raise up your boy, teach him how to play ball, get him into college, pay for the college. He goes into the pros, becomes one of the best running backs in the world, makes the winning touchdown in the Super Bowl, and the camera comes up to him and he says, "Hi, Mom." Same idea here, right? So the woman gets healed instantly just by touching Jesus' garment. And so that should be good, right? The woman's not suffering anymore. Let's go save my daughter. But that's not what happens. Jesus took the time to explain to the woman. You know, first it's, who touched me? And maybe Jarvis is thinking, who cares, right? Let's go. My daughter's that way. I know that's probably what I would be feeling, right? Jesus takes the time to figure out who it was. Time to explain what had just happened. Your faith. I would have been going nuts at this point. And then as they turn to leave, somebody from Jairus' house shows up and gives the news. Hey, it's too late. Don't bother the rabbi. There's no point in bothering him. Your daughter's already gone. Now think about the flood of adrenaline that you would feel in that moment. It's like you had the power to save my daughter and you didn't. You were busy explaining theology to a woman. Especially in those times. A leader of the Sanhedrin and you took the time to explain something to a woman. To them, that would have, yeah, so what? Why does she need to know? I could imagine the amount of rage that would come up inside of me. But you know what it doesn't say anywhere in Scripture? It doesn't say that Jairus felt the stuff that I just said. It never says that once. They taught me in school to be very careful when you're studying the Bible, not to put your thoughts and feelings in between the lines. Because Jairus may have felt those things, or maybe he had faith. Maybe he knew, I got nothing to worry about. I got the man here with me. Daddy's home. Remember that feeling when Dad would get home? I have to look down now and then to see how far I went away from my notes, you know. And so when they said that about his daughter, Jesus told him, hey, don't worry about it. Just believe. It's going to be all right. And they went, and she wasn't dead. She was just asleep. Or at least that's the way Jesus would tell this story. Everyone else there knew she was dead, and Jesus had raised her. Because he was never too far away. See, the plan was that this girl would live, right? Just like the plan was we would all walk with the Father. It got ruined in Eden, but the plan hadn't changed. The Father sent the Son to change what had gone wrong. If I would have started drowning in that lake, my dad would have jumped in and changed what had gone wrong, because he had already told me we were going to the side of the lake. The plan hadn't changed. So maybe Jairus believed. Maybe he had enough in him to just believe. You guys know who Jay Pathak is? He's the national director of Vineyard USA. And it's funny because he's got this hoity title, and I've met the guy, and he's not a hoity title. He's just a guy. He's a guy that knows a lot about theology, though. I really enjoy hearing him speak. And I heard him say, there's a way of experiencing life where you can expect God to come at any moment and help you. He said that we should not only be his followers, we should be his disciples. And then he said, and when I say mine, I'm saying he said my. Then he said, my entire discipleship journey has been one of desperation. I was desperate in that lake, chasing after my dad, get me on the land. So, can you imagine how key faith would have been in that situation? Like, Jairus could have really blown it in that moment. He could have started screaming. He could have made a spectacle of himself, but he didn't. He trusted the right guy. And the right guy walked into his house and raised his daughter from the dead. It says that after he put them all out, he took the child's father and mother and the disciples who were with him. He went in there where the child was. He took her by the hand and said to her, Talitha koum. And that means, little girl, I say to you, get up. Immediately the girl stood up and began to walk around. She was 12 years old. At this, they were completely astonished. He gave strict orders not to let anyone know about this, and they disobeyed that because, like we all know about it today. And he told them to give her something to eat. I love that. I could use something to eat, actually. So I want to talk about how key faith is for fathers. You know, key is our faith is our superhero power. We're supposed to be the rock. We're supposed to be the one that's steady when everything goes wrong. We're supposed to be the one that doesn't get nervous when we have an entire service and the beginning of the church lasts for 3 hours. Oh, I mean... We're supposed to be cool and level-headed in all situations. And when buildings are blowing up around us, we're supposed to be able to make decisions and lead. And, you know, the picture of us pointing, you know. Yeah, that's who we're supposed to be. And I got to tell you, sometimes that's difficult. Sometimes I'm standing there trying to look majestic, when inside I'm falling apart. Inside I'm still in the lake screaming, Dad, help me. But there's another time in the Bible that everyone goes to when they're talking about faith. What is it? Go ahead. You've all heard it before. Yeah, that's a great scripture. But what I was about to bring up was when Jesus walks on the water. And I'm sure that you've heard that a number of times from people standing up here. And they go into the whole thing about just keep your eyes on Jesus. Don't look down at the wave, your problems. Just have faith in that moment and everything will be great, right? You won't sink. And not only that, you've heard that sermon from me. I have stood in this very spot and gave that sermon. And you know what? It's a great sermon. It preaches. I love that sermon. But what that sermon leaves out is the account in Mark. Because that's all out of Matthew, and it's great. But in Mark, it reads slightly different. In Mark, it reads like Jesus puts them on the boat and sends them away, and then he dismisses the crowd after that, which I thought was an interesting fact. Then he goes to a mountain to praise, and they're out there struggling. But he had told them, we're going to the other side of the lake. Basically, he let them know, I'm going to meet you over there. Go. And then it says that he saw them struggling. He was going to just walk on by, but he saw them struggling. And that's why he stopped. His plan wasn't to stop and save them. He was just going to walk across the water and get there and meet them on the other side and go about their day. Just like if I had been drowning when my dad was teaching me to swim, he was just going to go to the shore, right? Until. So did he stop because there was a storm? Not really, no. Did he stop because they were tired from all this rowing in the heavy winds and the big waves? No. What was their need? What do you guys think their need was in that moment? It's faith. Jesus stopped that day because they were lacking faith. They were looking at the storm. They were so busy with that, they didn't know. When they saw Jesus out there, they actually thought he was a ghost. You know, I have to say, side note, this one's free, okay? It's not in my notes. Have you noticed how many times in the scriptures they did not recognize Jesus? Like, again and again and again and again. After he's on the cross and he raises up again, they still don't recognize him. He's got to be like, hey, put your finger here. And we wonder, why didn't anyone else recognize him? Why didn't all of Judea recognize he was the Messiah? Well, his best friends hardly knew who he was half the time. So their need was faith. And so what does he do to fix that? He walks across a lake. You believe me now? You know? And then Peter gets all full of faith. He's, call me out there, right? You wouldn't believe the things that I've been able to do because my dad was watching. You wouldn't believe the things that I've been able to do because I thought maybe my dad was watching. I mean, think about it. My dad's been dead, 28 years now? Well, me and my dad had a conversation just before I got on this stage. Are you kidding me? I'm still trying to make that man proud. But gentlemen, I don't want you to miss this. From the shoreline, he looked out and saw them way out there struggling in the middle of a storm. He saw them struggling. And if he saw them struggling, he can see you struggling. And I know some guys in the room that are struggling. The day we all want to look the best is on Father's Day. Yeah, I got it together. Yeah, look, my tie's better than yours. Mine says great as Papa. You know? All you best dads, sorry, bros. But today is the day we want to look the best. Today's our victory lap, right? It's time to be real. It's hard out there. It's hard. It's hard going to a job day in and day out, knowing that no matter what you do, it's not going to be good enough. It's hard going every day knowing that I'm incapable of doing what God set me out to do. But it makes it a lot easier when I remember that everything God expects of me, he's going to give me what I need to do it. And probably right in the last second, because that's his way he does things. It seems anyway. But are you struggling? Is it hard? Do you feel like there's no end? Day after day? Week after week? It gets heavy, doesn't it? John 16:33 says that in this world you will have trouble. You know, that was one of the first things I memorized when I got here, because I heard it all the time. Everyone was always saying, you know, in the book of John it says in this world there will be trouble. So you can expect trouble, but God's going to... But they don't finish the sentence. It's very important to finish the sentence. I can't even tell you how important it is to finish a sentence. Let's see, where did I lose it in my notes just now? It says that in this world, you will have trouble. Why does everyone stop there? The meat comes next. It says, but take heart. I have overcome the world. Hey. And so he overcame the world unless, of course, a storm comes, right? He overcame the world unless, of course, I can't swim to shore yet. I don't know how to do it. He overcame the world. The plan hasn't changed. It did not change. It's overcome. Brothers, I came here today to celebrate you. That's why I'm here. You guys, day in and day out, in a culture that doesn't even want you anymore. You guys wear uniforms and you go out and fight. You wear uniforms and you put out fires. Where's Kevin Fry when you need him? On Catalina. You guys go out and do jobs no one would be willing to do. And you wear it like it's a badge of honor, right? We all got our stripes here. This is what I spent the last 20 years doing. But are you tired? I know I am. I've got the greatest job in the world and I'm tired, you know? So I want to do something tonight that might be a little bit different. I would like for all our men to stand up.